Florence Scovel Shinn discovered a profound truth. Life is literally a game with specific rules, effective strategies, and a guaranteed way to always win. The shocking reality? 99% of people are playing this game completely wrong. In 1925, Florence published The Game of Life and How to Play It. But what few know is that before writing the book, she spent years developing and testing these strategies with hundreds of clients. The results were extraordinary. One woman, applying Florence's teachings, transformed from broke and depressed in 6 months into the most prosperous businesswoman in her town. A man on the brink of divorce not only saved his marriage, but created the most harmonious relationship he'd ever imagined. But before revealing these game rules, you need to understand why most people consistently lose at the game of life. The first problem? People don't know they're playing a game. They think life happens to them, that they're victims of circumstance. Florence discovered this is the exact opposite of reality. Life is a strategic game where you are simultaneously the player and the creator of the rules. When you don't understand this, you're at the mercy of rules others created, or worse, you're playing without any strategy whatsoever. The second problem? People play defensively instead of offensively. They spend all their energy trying to avoid losses instead of creating wins. Florence observed that defensive players never win. They only prolong the process of losing. The third problem? People misunderstand the scoring system. They think money, social standing, or recognition are the points of the game. Florence discovered these are merely byproducts. The real points are specific internal states. Florence identified 4 levels of players in the game of life. Level 1. Victims, people who don't know there's a game. They react to circumstances without strategy. They win occasionally by chance, but consistently lose in the long run. Level 2. Competitors, people who know there's a game, but think someone must lose for them to win. They create success through constant struggle. They win sometimes, but live with constant stress. Level 3. Collaborators, people who understand that everyone can win simultaneously. They create success through genuine value for others. They win consistently and live with satisfaction. Level 4. Co-creators, people who understand they're simultaneously players and creators of the rules. They manifest realities where victory is inevitable. They always win because they define what winning means. Florence specialized in taking people from level 1 directly to level 4. She discovered the specific rules that allow you to play as a co-creator. The first rule is, you always win when you define victory as alignment with your true nature, instead of comparison with other people. Let me give you a specific example. One of Florence's clients was named Emily. She was obsessed with winning against other women, being prettier, more successful, more admired. This obsession left her constantly dissatisfied because there was always someone who seemed to be winning more. Florence taught Emily to redefine victory. I win when I fully express my unique talents and contribute authentically to the world. With this new definition, Emily stopped competing and started collaborating. She discovered talents she'd ignored for years because they didn't generate envy in other people. In a matter of months, Emily was more fulfilled and prosperous than when she was desperately competing. The second rule is, you always win when you play with abundance instead of scarcity. Scarcity players think resources are limited. Money, opportunities, love, success. They spend energy trying to get their share before it runs out. Florence discovered that this mentality guarantees loss because it creates the exact scarcity you fear. Abundance players understand that resources grow when shared intelligently. They focus on creating more value for everyone. This approach guarantees victory because it attracts resources infinitely. David, a businessman Florence counseled, was struggling to retain clients because he saw each client as a limited source of money. Florence taught him to see each client as an opportunity to create genuine value. When David changed his approach, focusing on solving clients' problems instead of extracting money, his business transformed. Clients started referring others, paying more for services, and creating long-term partnerships. David discovered that abundance is created, not found. The third rule is, you always win when you play with gratitude instead of lack. Lack players focus on what's missing. Even when they win, they immediately focus on the next thing they don't have. This vibration of lack repels the very thing they want to attract. Gratitude players focus on what's already working. They celebrate small victories, recognize incremental progress, and build on positive foundations. This vibration attracts more reasons for gratitude. Florence taught a specific technique she called a victory inventory. Every day you list at least 3 things that worked well, no matter how small. This trains your mind to recognize victories instead of only problems. Sarah, one of Florence's clients, was so focused on the problems in her marriage that she couldn't see any positive aspects. Florence guided her to do the daily victory inventory, focusing on any moment, however small, where she and her husband were in harmony. Within weeks, Sarah started recognizing patterns of when the relationship worked well. Instead of trying to fix what was wrong, she started expanding what was right. The marriage completely transformed. The fourth rule is, you always win when you play with clear intention instead of vague hope. Vague hope players make generic requests to the universe and hope something good happens. I hope things improve, or I hope I get lucky. This lack of specificity makes it impossible to recognize when you're winning. Clear intention players specifically define what victory will look like. Not just, I want to be happy, but I want to feel energized every morning, have relationships based on mutual understanding, and contribute through my work in ways that fulfill me. Florence Scovel developed a specific formula for clear intentions: desired emotional state, plus specific contribution, plus realistic timing, plus benefit to others. For example, I want to feel confident and prosperous, emotional state, by creating solutions that genuinely help my clients. Contribution, over the next 6 months. Timing, in a way that benefits everyone involved. Benefit to others. The fifth rule is, you always win when you play with inspired action instead of forced effort. Forced effort players believe victory requires constant struggle. They work exhaustively, but often in the wrong direction. They create progress through brute force, but live stressed and unsatisfied. Inspired action players await intuitive guidance on when and how to act. They work intensely when guided, but relax when there's no clear action to take. They create progress through perfect timing and natural efficiency. Florence taught that inspired action always feels energizing, even when challenging. Forced effort always feels draining, even when producing temporary results. David, a writer Florence mentored, was trying to force himself to write 8 hours a day because he thought that's how serious writers worked. He produced a lot of text, but the quality was low, and he was constantly frustrated. Florence taught David to write only when he felt genuinely inspired, but to write intensely during those periods. David discovered he produced better work in 2 hours of inspiration than in 8 hours of force. The sixth rule is, you always win when you play with divine timing instead of anxious scheduling. Anxious scheduling players try to force results within deadlines they invented. I need to be married by 30. I have to be rich by 40. I must get a promotion this year. This anxiety about timing interferes with the natural process of manifestation. Divine timing players plant seeds through consistent action, but allow the harvest to happen when it's ripe. They distinguish between goals that inspire action and schedules that create anxiety. Florence observed that goals achieved in divine timing always bring lasting satisfaction. Goals forced through anxious schedules often feel empty when achieved. The 7th rule is, you always win when you play with love instead of fear. Fear players make decisions based on what they want to avoid. I don't want to be poor. I can't be alone. I mustn't fail. This avoidance energy creates exactly what they fear because they constantly focus on those negative possibilities. Love players make decisions based on what they want to create. I want to contribute through my prosperity. I want to build relationships based on mutual growth. I want to fully explore my potential. This creation energy attracts positive experiences. Florence always said, what you love, you attract. What you fear, you create. Let me share a complete case that illustrates all these rules working together. In 1927, a man named William sought Florence's help in a seemingly impossible situation. He was 45 years old, unemployed for 8 months. His wife was considering leaving him, and he was deeply depressed. William had tried everything he knew, applying for hundreds of jobs, taking courses, even considering moving cities. Nothing worked. He felt like a complete failure. Florence identified that William was playing at level 1, victim, and helped him transition directly to level 4, co-creator. First, Florence taught William to redefine victory. Instead of getting any job to avoid being a failure, William learned to define victory as using my unique talents to create genuine value while feeling fulfilled and prosperous. Second, Florence guided William to take inventory of all the skills, experiences, and knowledge he had accumulated throughout his life. William discovered he had a unique combination of experiences that few people possessed. Third, Florence taught William to create a clear intention. I want to feel useful and prosperous. Emotional state. By helping companies solve specific problems I know how to solve. Contribution. Within the next 3 months. Timing. By creating value for everyone involved. Benefit. Fourth, Florence guided William to act only when he felt inspired, but to act intensely during those moments. Instead of desperately applying for any job, William should wait for guidance on where and how to apply his unique talents. The first guidance seemed strange. William felt a nudge to talk to the owner of a small coffee shop where he bought coffee every morning. During casual conversation, William discovered the owner was struggling with a specific problem related to inventory management. William offered to help solve this problem for free using knowledge he had gained from previous jobs. Within 2 weeks, he had created a system that saved the shop thousands of dollars. The owner was so impressed that he offered William a partnership in the business. But more importantly, he recommended William to other owners who had similar problems. Within 3 months, William had become a specialized consultant, earning more money than in any previous job. His marriage strengthened because he was confident and fulfilled again. William told Florence, I didn't just get a job. I discovered how to play the game of life in a way that I always win. Florence observed that when you apply all 7 rules simultaneously, victory becomes inevitable because you are aligned with the natural laws that govern prosperity, relationships, and personal fulfillment. But Florence also identified the most common obstacles that prevent people from applying these rules. Obstacle 1, fear of change. Many people prefer to lose in familiar ways than to win in new ways. Florence taught that growth always requires leaving old versions of yourself behind. Obstacle 2, identification with struggle. Some people are so accustomed to struggling that they don't know who they would be if life were easy. Florence showed that ease is not laziness, it's natural efficiency. Obstacle 3, guilt over victory. People who grew up in scarcity sometimes feel guilty when they start winning. Consistently, Florence taught that their victory inspires others. It doesn't harm them. Obstacle 4, impatience with the process. The rules work, but they require time to fully integrate. Florence emphasized that mastering the game is a gradual process, not an instantaneous transformation. Florence always concluded her sessions with the same powerful message. You're not trying to win an unfair game created by other people. You're learning to play the game that's always been yours, the game of fully expressing who you truly are. And perhaps this is Florence Scovel Shinn's most profound discovery. The game of life isn't an external competition where some win and others lose. It's an internal process of progressively aligning with your higher nature. When you play this way, victory isn't something you conquer from other people or circumstances. It's something you reveal about yourself through each aligned decision you make. The rules are clear. The strategy has been tested by thousands of people over nearly a century. The game is happening now, at this very moment, through every choice you make. The only question that remains is, are you ready to stop playing as a victim of circumstances and start playing as a conscious co-creator of your reality? But let me be even more specific about how to implement these rules in your daily life. Because knowing the rules isn't enough. You need to know how to put them into practice systematically. Florence developed what she called the daily play system, a way to apply the 7 rules through consistent decisions that gradually transform your entire life experience. The system has 5 components that work together to ensure consistent victory. Component 1, morning mental preparation, 15 minutes. Every day, before making any significant decision, you dedicate 15 minutes to aligning yourself with the rules of the game. Florence called this a strategic meeting with yourself. During these 15 minutes, you ask 3 specific questions. How can I play with abundance today? You identify at least one opportunity to create value for other people, or expand possibilities instead of protecting scarcity. What can I be genuinely grateful for right now? You list at least 3 recent victories, however small, to train your mind to recognize progress. What clear intention will I set for today? You choose a specific emotional state you want to cultivate and a specific contribution you want to make. Emily, the woman who stopped competing with other people, applied this system religiously. Every morning, she asked herself how she could use her unique talents to benefit someone that specific day. Instead of waking up thinking, how can I stand out today? She began waking up thinking, how can I contribute authentically today? This subtle shift completely transformed the quality of her interactions and opportunities. Component 2, energy-based decisions. Throughout the day, Florence taught a specific technique for making decisions aligned with the rules of the game. Before any important choice, you ask a simple question. Does this decision energize me or drain me? Aligned decisions always energize, even when they involve challenges. Unaligned decisions always drain, even when they seem easy. David, the businessman who transformed his approach to clients, used this technique for all business decisions. Instead of accepting any project for the money, he only accepted projects that genuinely energized him. Initially, this meant turning down some opportunities, but he quickly discovered that energizing projects not only paid better, but led to referrals and partnerships that multiplied his opportunities. Component 3, midday recalibration, 5 minutes. Florence observed that most people lose alignment with the rules during the day due to external pressures, challenging interactions, or simply mental fatigue. To avoid this, she developed a midday recalibration, 5 minutes to check if you're still playing by the right rules, or if you've been dragged back into old patterns. You ask a simple question. Am I playing as a co-creator or a victim right now? If the answer is victim, you don't judge yourself. You simply consciously readjust to the rules of co-creation. Sarah, who saved her marriage by focusing on what worked, used this recalibration, especially during conflicts with her husband. When she realized she was focusing on problems, playing as a victim, She consciously shifted her focus to solutions, playing as a co-creator. Component 4. Evening-inspired action. Variable time. Florence discovered that there's a specific time every day when you're most receptive to intuitive guidance on actions you should take. For most people, this happens in the late afternoon or early evening. During this time, you become silent for a few minutes and ask, what specific action should I take now to move forward toward my clear intentions? The answer might be to send a specific email, call a specific person, research something specific, or even rest if you've been pushing yourself too hard. Charles, the writer who stopped forcing productivity, received his best guidance during evening walks. It was during one of these walks that he had the idea for the book that became his biggest success. William, the man who became a consultant, received guidance primarily during dinner. It was during a dinner that he had the impulse to talk to the coffee shop owner, a conversation that transformed his life. Component 5. Nightly Victory Review. 10 minutes. Florence emphasized that the day should always end with recognition of progress, not with worry about problems. She developed a victory review that trains the mind to look for evidence of success instead of evidence of failure. You write down 3 specific things. An external victory, something concrete that worked well during the day, however small. An internal victory, a moment when you chose to react in an aligned way instead of an automatic way. A specific gratitude, something or someone for which you feel genuine gratitude, with details about why. Florence observed that people who applied this review consistently developed what she called a victory magnet, a natural ability to attract and recognize positive experiences. But Florence also identified specific patterns in how the game's rules work in practice. Pattern 1. Victories start small and accelerate. When you begin playing by the right rules, the first wins are often subtle. A slightly improved relationship, a small opportunity that arises, a greater sense of inner peace. Florence taught that these small victories are seeds that, when recognized and celebrated, grow exponentially. Most people lose momentum because they don't recognize initial progress. Emily, for instance, began noticing that people responded slightly better to her when she stopped competing. This subtle shift led to invitations for collaborations she'd never received before. Collaborations that led to the opportunities that transformed her career. Pattern 2. Resistance before transformation. Florence observed that when people start playing by the right rules, they often face resistance, internal in the form of fear and doubt, and external in the form of people who preferred it when they played the victim. This resistance isn't a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's a sign that you're doing something different, and any change creates temporary friction. Florence taught that resistance is a test of your determination to play by the new rules. When you navigate the period of resistance while maintaining the rules, genuine transformation happens. Pattern 3. Synchronicity multiplies. When you're playing as a co-creator, coincidences begin to occur that seem specifically orchestrated to support your intentions. The right people show up at the right time. Necessary information arrives through unexpected sources. Opportunities arise precisely when you need them. Florence explained that these synchronicities have always existed, but when you play the victim, you lack the energy to recognize them or the wisdom to leverage them. David experienced a cascade of synchronicities after he started playing by the right rules. A casual conversation with a shop owner led not only to an opportunity, but to an entire network of contacts that transformed his career. Pattern 4. Ease replaces struggle. Florence observed that when people master the rules of the game, their lives become remarkably easier. Not because challenges disappear, but because they handle challenges in more efficient and natural ways. Instead of fighting against problems, they flow through solutions. Instead of forcing outcomes, They allow outcomes to manifest naturally through aligned actions. Let me share a final case that illustrates how all these components and patterns work together in real life. In 1929, a woman named Dorothy sought out Florence in a complex situation. She was caring for her elderly mother, raising 2 teenage children alone, and trying to keep a small business afloat. Dorothy felt constantly overwhelmed and was considering giving up the business. Florence identified that Dorothy was playing at level 2, competitor, fighting against circumstances instead of creating collaborative solutions. First, Florence applied the complete daily play system with Dorothy. In morning preparation, Dorothy learned to focus on how she could use the challenging situation to develop organizational and efficiency skills that would benefit not only her, but other women in similar situations. During the day, Dorothy began making decisions based on energy. She stopped accepting clients who drained her and began focusing on clients who genuinely benefited from her work. In the midday recalibration, Dorothy checked whether she was playing the victim of circumstances or the co-creator of solutions. During the evening-inspired action moment, Dorothy received specific guidance on how to optimize her time and energy. In the nightly review, Dorothy celebrated small victories instead of worrying about outstanding problems. In 3 weeks, Dorothy began noticing significant changes. Her mother, who had always resisted outside help, accepted Dorothy's suggestion to hire a part-time assistant. Dorothy realized that when she stopped fighting the situation and started looking for collaborative solutions, her mother also became more collaborative. Her teenage children started helping more around the house. Dorothy discovered that when she stopped sacrificing herself as a martyr and started communicating clear needs, her children responded positively. Her business began to grow organically. Satisfied clients began referring others, and Dorothy attracted exactly the type of client that energized her. In 6 months, Dorothy had transformed an impossible situation into a growth experience that benefited the entire family. She told Florence, "I didn't drastically change the external circumstances. I changed how I play with the circumstances, and that changed everything." Florence observed that this is the power of the rules of the game. They work regardless of external circumstances because they transform your relationship with those circumstances. When you play as a co-creator, you don't have to wait for the world to change to start winning. You start winning immediately because you're aligned with principles that create victory in any situation. Florence's 7 rules aren't abstract theory. They are practical tools tested by thousands of people in real-life situations over nearly a century. The difference between people who consistently win at the game of life and people who constantly struggle isn't luck, intelligence, or circumstances. It's knowledge and application of the right rules. Florence always concluded her sessions with a fundamental truth. You don't need to change the world to start winning at the game of life. You need to change how you play, and the world will respond accordingly. And perhaps this is Florence Scovel Shinn's most liberating discovery. You've always had the power to win at the game of life. You just didn't know the rules. Now you know. The rules are clear. The system is tested. The patterns have been documented. The game is happening every moment through every decision you make. The only question that remains is, are you ready to stop playing by the rules that other people created and start playing by the rules that guarantee victory for conscious co-creators? The game is yours. The rules are revealed. Victory is guaranteed when you play consciously. And remember, in the game of life, as Florence taught, when you win in alignment, everyone wins. Your victory doesn't diminish anyone. It inspires and enables victories for other people too. This is the real secret to the game of life. The only way to consistently win is to play in a way that contributes to everyone's victory. And when you do this consistently, the entire universe conspires to support your success. Think about it. Florence Scovel Shinn's revolutionary approach, published in 1925 as The Game of Life and How to Play It, wasn't just about individual achievement. It was about understanding the interconnectedness of everything. It's about recognizing that your success isn't separate from the success of others, but rather intrinsically linked. Imagine a world where everyone played this way. A world where collaboration replaced competition, where co-creation thrived. It's a powerful vision, a vision Florence Shinn spent years perfecting and testing with countless clients, achieving extraordinary results. She saw firsthand how shifting perspectives from scarcity to abundance, from lack to gratitude, could transform lives. This wasn't some esoteric spiritual practice. It was a practical, actionable strategy, a way of engaging with the world that yielded tangible, life-changing outcomes. It's about aligning your actions with a clear intention, a focused desire, rather than relying on vague hope. It's about cultivating a victory inventory, a conscious awareness of past successes to build confidence and momentum. Florence Scovel Shinn understood that the common pitfalls are based on misunderstanding the rules. Most people play the game wrong. They focus on competition, on beating others, on achieving success at the expense of others. But this is a flawed approach, a losing strategy. Instead of focusing on scarcity and limitations, Florence Shinn emphasized the abundance that already exists, waiting to be channeled and directed through intentional action. It's about shifting our consciousness from lack to abundance, from victimhood to empowerment, a complete paradigm shift. By actively shaping our thoughts and beliefs, we begin to co-create a reality aligned with our desires. This isn't about magical thinking or blind faith. It's about understanding the power of intention, the impact of gratitude, and the importance of seeing ourselves as co-creators of our own reality and the reality of all those around us. This is more than just a philosophy. It's a roadmap, a guide to unlock your potential and contribute to a more abundant and joyful life for everyone. It's about understanding the rules, playing strategically, and making a lasting impact on the world. It's about aligning your life with a higher purpose and experiencing the incredible rewards that follow. It's about playing the game of life and winning together.